Shuklambaradhanam Vitnam Sasivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vajjananandanam Veeram Janaki Shokanashanam Kapishamakshaham Taram Vande Lanka Bhayankaram Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Govindaya Namo Namaha. Namaskaram and welcome to the 21st session of Narayaniyam. This is the second part of the special mini-series of Upanyasam on the 24 or 22 incarnations of the Lord Supreme, Brahman, consciously spaced between Kapila Avatara and Narayana Avatara and Daksha Yajnam that Narayana Bhattadri detailed in Dasakam 16. In the last session, we saw why such avatars spanning multiple yugas became necessary, even though God is said to be eternal and omnipresent. Why just only 10 such have been carved out to be known as Dashavatas, and why the remaining are rarely spoken or appear obscure. As all of you may agree that we briefly dealt with the primary or foremost of the incarnations since the commencement of Narayaniyam, starting with Paramapurusha and the second incarnation, namely Hiranyagarbha. If you add these two to the 22, then we get the 24 number. Then we also saw Varahavatara and Kapilavatara, already dealt with in detail by Narayaniyam. We will soon elaborate on specific incarnations through the prism of Narayaniyam on Narayana Avatara, which will be the next Dasakam 16, Narasimha Avatara, 25th Dasakam, Vamana Avatara, 30th, then Matsya Avatara, 32nd, Sri Rama Avatara, 34 and 35, and Parashurama, 36th Dasakam. Before focusing elaborately on the descending of Sri Krishna in Dwapara Yuga to be born as Yadava from Dasakams 37 through the 99th Dasakam of Narayaniyam. One of his incarnations, Baladeva, will be included when we treat Dasakams 37 to 99 in Narayaniyam. Bhattadri, for the most part, followed Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes all these incarnations, starting with the eternal Purusha before and after the Great Deluge. In the last session, I expressed some concern on the current trends or deteriorating phenomenon and also empathized with the visible reactions from many of the satsangis on the lack of interest or knowledge from most of the Bharatvasis of resident Indians and also the expatriates of the extraordinary prowess and antiquity of the Sanatana Dharma or the eternal code. My angst was also equally on the ignorance of how ancient and profound are our epics in the Vedic time scale, namely Ramayana and Mahabharata, and how sad are the recent attempts to box our unparalleled epics, scriptures, and ancient Sanatana Dharma to be dated within the confines of the translations or expositions from the Westerners' perspectives, especially over the last 180 years. Recently, it was brought to my attention about an overnight famous first part of the book written on Ramayana by a popular Hindu speaker in Tamil hailing from southern India. Most of us have felt until recently a sense of gratitude for the speaker's powerful lectures on Sanatana Dharma scriptures and in particular on Ramayana. I'm told that this part 1 of Ramayana, recently released with great publicity and fanfare, contains reference to the age or time period of Ramayana, and that as per that writer's belief and subjective analysis to be about 6,000 years before the Common Era. If this were true, it is sad and very sad indeed, since the speaker is considered one of the knowledgeable propagators of our holy tradition, trusting the timeless code Sanatana Dharma at the current times. Yes, a dozen authors from the Western world had written books on Ramayana and averred us to the age of 6,000 or 7,000 years before Common Era. Such assertions are peppered from 1800 BCE to 7000 BCE. For someone who claims in the book to have read numerous treatises on Ramayana, accepting to take those new numbers and restate in his book is regrettably sad. Maharishis, sages, and scholars, Eastern and Western, over the last 2 millennia, and more particularly great acharyas of Sanatana Dharma, often called Hinduism by Indians and the foreigners alike, have averred after great study and analysis of our Vedic literature and also the Yuga theory or the time theory that Ramayana happened around 17 million years ago. It is relevant to mention that one of our satsangis, Sri Raja Srinivasan, who has been writing for more than a decade on Sanatana Dharma topics under the title Raja's blog, already wrote about the possible time period of Ramayana in June of 2020, long before the new Ramayana book has been released, probably a month ago. I recommend to those in search of truth and those who believe in Vedavyasa's dicta in Srimad Bhagavatam, Satyam Param Dhimahi, remember this: may the truth be the highest in my consciousness. That's one of the 4 meanings of the above statement, Satyam Param Dhimahi, said by Vedavyasa in Srimad Bhagavatam. Raja Srinivasan's blogs are well-researched interpretations worth your time and consideration. I'm impressed reading many of his blogs, from which I learned more on the subjects that I've already previously touched upon. In June of 2020, Raja postulated that Ramayana, as we read it today, must have taken place between 17 and 18 million years before Common Era. I'm using generously from Raja's valuable analysis. Raja mentions the beautiful descriptions of Lanka provided by the epic writer Maharishi Valmiki, describing elephant-like animals with 4 tusks. He also presented modern archaeological evidence on these animals, which scientists now call Gomphotheres. And these animals were supposed to have existed 18 to 25 million years ago, and such numbers have been happily accepted by scientists and scholars, and also by billions of ignoramus like me, with no questions asked about such huge numbers thrown at us like 25 million years. We have no problem accepting scientists and other Western scholars giving out the numbers 18 million, 19 million, 25 million, but we have problem accepting our epic happened between 17 and 18 million years ago, particularly when the reference is to the strange animals that roamed about described by Maharishi Valmiki. Rupa Goswami, who happened to live between 1489 and 1564, was a great acharya, a poet, philosopher of the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. Along with his brother Sanatana Goswami, Rupa is considered the most senior of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavanam, associated with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a reincarnation of Bhagavan Krishna in Kali Yuga. In Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Sri Rupa Goswami says like this: Kausalyayam Dasharatannava Durvadaladyutihi Tretayam Avirabhavat Chaturvimse Chaturyuge Tretayam Avirbhavat Chaturvimse Chaturyuge Bharadena Sumitraya Nandanabhyam Cha Samyutaha Bharatena Sumitraya Nandanabhyam Cha Samyutaha Tretayam Avirbhavati Chaturvimse Chaturyuge Bharatena Sumitraya Nandanabhyam Cha Samyutaha. Kausalyayam Dasaratannava Durvadaladyutihi Tretayam Avirabhavat Chaturvimse Chaturyuge Bharatena Sumitraya Nandanabhyam Cha Samyutaha. In the Treta Yuga of the 24th Yuga cycle, Lord Ramachandra appeared through Dasharatha from the womb of Kausalya, his complexion like lustrous new blades of Durva grass. He was joined by Bharata and the 2 sons of Sumitra. This is what Rupa Goswami wrote. We are currently in the Kali Yuga of the 28th Yuga cycle. Roughly by back of the envelope calculations, we can show that the 24th Yuga cycle must have taken place more than 17 million years ago. Our Vedic literature and Vedic lore have many more of such cross references, and they all arrive at similar dates and time frames, give or take a few thousand years. Therefore, we must conclude that Lord Rama was a living entity, lived more than 17 million years ago, and modern science indeed has a lot to learn from our Vedic lore. It is high time modern day scientists learn to accept the value and the authenticity of our scriptures. The easiest method would be that we study and listen to our Puranas and Itihasas and Upanishads and Upavedas and question when modern day authors who follow Sanatana Dharma tradition, who speak about Ramayana, do not misinterpret the time theory and do not give a date just because some Westerner has thrown this date to us. Thus, given above context and authentic scriptural information, a popular speaker writing a book on Ramayana could have been a bit more thoughtful before asserting such age calculations, because there are hundreds and thousands of people who look to the speaker and whatever he says they consider to be authentic because of the lack of knowledge that the listener or reader has. Let us now get on with the 24 avatars and the hoary history behind them all. Jagruhe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Magadadibihi Jagruhe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Magadadibihi Sambhutam Shodasakalam Adau Lokasisrukshaya Yasyambasi Sayanasya yoga nidram vitanvatah Nabhigridambujat asid Brahma Visvasrijampatihi Yasyavaya vasamsthanaihi kalpito lokavistaraha Tadvai bhagavato rupam vishuddham Sarvamurjitam Pashyanti adorupam Adabra chakshusha Sahasrapadorbhujagananadbhutam Sahasramurdha sravanakshinaasikam Sahasramuli ambara kundalo lasate. Jagrihe Paurusham Rupam Bhagavan Magadadibihi Sambhutam Shodasakalam Adau Lokasisrukshaya. Suta Pauranika said, in the beginning of the creation, Bhagavan first expanded himself in the universal form of Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients for the material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of the 16 principles of material action. Of the 10 knowing and working senses, the mind and the 5 elements, and the cosmic intelligence, primarily this Mahat Tattva, is divided into 16 parts, namely the 5 gross material elements and 11 working instruments or senses. This was for the purpose of creating material universes. There are 3 Purusha features in the material creation. In the first form, Brahman is known as the Karanodakasayi Vishnu, as the first of the 3. The others are known as Garbhodakasayi Vishnu and Kshirodakasayi Vishnu, which we shall soon review one after the other. The innumerable universes are generated from the skin holes of this Karanodakasayi Vishnu, and in each one of the universes, Bhagavan enters as Garbhodakasayi Vishnu. Yasyambasi sayanasya yoga nidram vitanvadaha nabhihi gridambujati asid brahma visvasrijam patihi. A part of the Purusha lies down within the water of the universe. From the navel lake of Brahman's body sprouts a lotus stem, and from the lotus flower atop the stem, Brahma, the head of all engineers in the universe, becomes manifest. Yasyavaya vasamsthanaihi kalpito lokavistaraha tadvai bhagavato rupam vishuddham sattvamurjitam. All the universal plenary systems are situated on the extensive body of the Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. Purusha's body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence. Pashyanti adorupam adabra chakshusha sahasra padoru bhujananatpudam sahasra muddha sravanakshi nasikam sahasra mauli Ambara Kundalollasati. The devotees with their perfect eyes see the transcendental form of the Purusha who has thousands of feet and legs and thighs and arms and faces, all extraordinary. In that body, there are thousands of heads, ears, eyes, and noses also. They are decorated with thousands of crowns and glowing earrings and are adorned with garlands. You all are aware of this Rigveda Purusha Suktam. Sahasrasirsha Purushaha Sahasracha Sahasrapad Sa Bhumim Vishwato Vritva Atyatishtat Dashangulam. Rigveda says the Purusha, the universal being, has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet. 1,000 signifies innumerable, not to be mathematically considered and say just 1,000. Countless number, which points to the omnipresence of the universal being. He envelops the world from all sides. He pervades each part of the creation and extends beyond in the 10 directions represented by 10 fingers. Atyatishtat Dashankulam. There is so much to be talked about Purusha Suktam as discerned from Rigveda, interpreted for millions of years by acharyas and more critically examined for centuries by modern day scholars and philosophers. Non-believers of Sanatana Dharma and the sacred concepts have been partially successful in promoting negative connotations on the theory of evolution and Varnashrama concepts explained in our scriptures clearly. But we need to highlight the truth at every swing and occasion possible, and hence this digression. We reviewed a year ago the Dashakam 6 of Narayaniyam on Virat Purusha. For more details, please go back to the session 6 under Guru Bhakti channel. Shronisthalam Mrugaganaha Padayonakaste Hastyushtra Saindhavamuka Gamanam Tukalaha Shronisthalam Mrugagana Padayonakaste Hastyushtra Saindhavamuka Gamanam Tukalaha Vipradi Varnabhavanam Vadanabjabahu Charuri Yugma Sharanam Karunambudete Vipradi Varnabhavanam Vadanabjabahu Charuru Yugma Charanam Karunambudete Shronisthalam Mrigaganaha Padayo Nakaste Hastyushtra Saindhavamuka Gamanam tu Kalaha Vipradi Varnabhavanam Vadanabja Bahuhu Charuru Yugmacharanam Karunambudete. Bhattadri says, I am praying for such a cosmic divine form of yours. Please have mercy on me. The back of your beautiful waist is the animal world. The nail of your toes represent quadrupeds like elephants, camels, and horses. Your movement represents time, past, present, and future. Your lotus face, the Brahmanas. Your arms, the Kshatriyas. Both of your beautiful thighs, Vaishyas. And your feet, the Shudras, the age-old work-oriented classifications. This is how Bhattadri then classified the later parts of the Purusha Sukta. Let us see the original Purusha Sukta as retold in Shukla Yajurveda. Brahmanosya mukamasid bahu rajanyakritaha uru tadasya yadvaishyaha padbyam shudro ajayata. The Brahmanas were his mouth. The Kshatriyas became his arms. The Vaishyas were his thighs. And the Shudras were assigned to his feet. Chandrama manaso jataha chaksho shuryo ajayata. Chandrama manaso jataha chaksho suryo ajayata. Mugadindrashagnisha pranad vayurajayata. The moon was born from his mind and the sun from his eyes. Indra and Agni were born from his mouth and Vayu was born from his breath. Nabhya asit antariksham chishnodhyau samavartata padbhyam bhumi dishashrotrahat tata lokakam akalpayan. His navel became the antariksha, which is the intermediate space between heaven and earth. Purusha's head sustained the heaven. From his feet, the earth was sustained. And from his ears, the directions were sustained. In this manner, all the worlds were regulated by him, Purusha. We then address in that segment the assignment of these creations to various parts of the Virat Purusha. Essentially, the Purusha is incomplete in creation without all the four categories of his creations in humans. And that too, they should be coexisting and performing the duties assigned based on their qualities and capabilities rather than to who the jiva was born. Sri Krishna, knowing the ill-fated residents of Kali Yuga, already resolved this question through Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter to Arjuna in 7 slokams, 41 to 47, which as for the most part remains badly understood or misinterpreted concepts and often made controversial by exploitation up to now for those who do not believe in God, who do not want to believe in God, and also who do not want to believe in Sanatana Dharma and its scriptures. So, for a quick reference, you should go back to Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, 7 slokams 41 to 47, for the purpose of this Varnashrama as detailed by Sri Krishna. Ye tatnana avataranam Ye tatnana avataranam Nidhanam bijamavyayo Yasyamsa amsena srijyante Yasyamsa amsena srijyante devaviryaki naradayaham Yasyamsa amsena srijyante devatiryagnaraadayaham Etat nana avataranam nidhanam bijamavyayam Yasyamsa amsena srijyante deva tiryaku naradayaha. The Purusha, after creating innumerable universes in the Mahat Tattva, entered in each of them as the second Purusha or Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. When he saw that within the universe there was only darkness and space without a resting place, Purusha filled a half of the universe with water from his own perspiration and laid himself down on the same water. This water is called Garbhodaka. Then from his navel, the stem of the lotus flower sprouted, and on the flower petals, the birth of Brahma, or the primary agent or engineer of the universal plan that Purusha had, took place. Brahma became the engineer of the universe, and Lord himself took charge of the maintenance of the universe as Vishnu. Brahma was generated from Rajoguna of Prakriti, or the mode of passion in nature, and Vishnu became the Lord of the mode of goodness. Vishnu, being transcendental to all the modes, is always aloof from materialistic affection or affliction. This has already been explained in depth. From Brahma there is Rudra, Shiva, who is in charge of mode of ignorance or darkness. He destroys the whole creation by the will of the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, All three, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are incarnations of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. You have to remember there is a distinction here. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is Purusha in another form who creates this creation, and the first creation is Brahma. Thus, Sukha describes the Purusha and Hiranyagarbha as the primordial incarnations 1 and 2, as the beginning of further creation and incarnations, making the remaining to be the 22 most important creations or incarnations. Sayeva pratamam devaha kaumaram sargamaśritah chachara duscharam brahma brahmacharyam akanditam brahmacharyam akanditam Sayeva pratamam devaha kaumaram sargamashritah chachara duscharam brahma brahmacharyam akhanditam. First of all, in the beginning of creation, there were the sons of Brahma, the Kumaras, Sanaka, Sananda, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, who took a vow of celibacy, underwent severe austerities for realization of the absolute truth, namely Parabrahman. Although we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, as retold by Sukha, Narada as the incarnation next to Varaha, Narada and 4 Kumaras appeared in the first Kalpa, and they stay throughout the life of Brahma, namely the son of Purusha or Brahman. They are both Shaktya-vesha-avatara, as per Laghu Bhagavatamrita of Rupa Goswami. Shaktya-vesha-avatara is the power-embodied avatara of a deity tradition of Hinduism. The concept refers to living beings who are empowered by a deity towards the performance of certain acts or the achievement of a given mission. A portion of the potencies of a deity is believed to be present, avesha, within a Shaktya-vesha avatara, invested with divine power. The Vyasa and 4 Kumaras, Narada, Sesha, and Brahma are all generally regarded to be Shaktya Avesha avatars or Shaktya-vesha avatars of Vishnu or Krishna, by the Krishna being Brahman theory. The Garga Samhita states that a Shaktya-vesha avatara is one of the 6 forms of incarnation of the deity Krishna identified with Vishnu. The purpose of such an incarnation is regarded to be to enter a jiva, living being, in order to perform a given mission, after which the deity departs from that form. The Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadasa Kaviraja, born in 16th century, offers 6 categories of the Shaktya-vesha avatars of Krishna and their purpose. Sesha, empowered for personal service of Vishnu, Swasevana Shakti, and bearing all the planets within the universe, Bhudharana Shakti. Brahma, empowered for the creation of the cosmos, namely Srishti Shakti. The 4 Kumaras, empowered to distribute transcendental knowledge, Jnana Shakti. Narada, empowered to distribute devotional service, namely Bhakti Shakti. Prutu, empowered to rule and maintain living entities, Palana Shakti. Parashurama, empowered to rout out rogues and demons, Dushta Damana Shakti. So remember, Chaitanya Charitamrita highlights these categories of the Shaktya-vesha avatars and delineates names for each one of them. द्वितीयं तु भवायस्य रसातलगतां मही उद्धरिष्यन् उपादत्त यज्ञेश शौकरं वपुः Yajnesha Saukaram Vapuhu Uddharishan Upadata Yajnesha Saukaram Vapuhu Dutiyam tu bhavayasya rasatalagatam mahim Uddharishan Upadatta Yajnesha Saukaram Vapuhu. The supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices accepted the incarnation of a boar, which is the second incarnation, and for the welfare of the earth, he lifted the earth from the nether regions of the universe. So, in the list of 22 avatars, we saw the Kumaras, 4 Kumaras formed one avatara or first incarnation. The second incarnation is that of a Sukara, Saukaram Vapuhu. And this Varaha lifted the Mother Earth from the nether regions. We already saw in detail through Dasakam 12 and 13 on this Varaha Avataram and Avatara Karanam and details. The indication is that for each and every incarnation of Supreme Brahman, the particular function executed is also mentioned. There cannot be any incarnation without a particular function, and such functions are always extraordinary. They are impossible for any living being to ever even imagine performing. The incarnation of the boar was to take the earth out of the Pluto region of filthy matter. Picking up something from a filthy place is only done by a boar, as we know from the zoological patterns, and all powerful personality of Brahman displayed this wonder to the asuras who had hidden the earth in such a filthy place. There is nothing impossible for Brahman, and although he played the part of a boar by the devotees, he is worshipped, staying always in transcendence. Trutiyam Rishi Sargam Vai Devarshitvam Upetya Saha Tantram Satvadamachatta Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha Trutiyam Rishi Sargam Vai Devarshitvam Upetya Saha Tantram Satvadamachatta Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha Tritiyam Rishisargam Vai Devarshitvam Upetya Saha Tantram Sattvatamachashta Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha. In the millennium of the Rishis, Bhagavan accepted the third empowered incarnation in the form of Devarshi Narada. There are numerous and controversial stories and anecdotes rolled by the dice and thrown onto cyberspace about the birth and role of Narada. Let us for the time set aside all of those and remember authentic references only throughout Srimad Bhagavatam to conclude on some basic facts quoted. When Brahma, the Hiranyagarbha, undertook serious creation, he perforce reluctantly exempted Sanaka and 3 other brothers, Sanat Kumaras, from their role in Srishti, and thus they left for Vaikuntha Lokam after extensive tapas. Narada Maharishi, also born of Brahma from the throat of the Creator, wanted to follow suit, observe celibacy, and pursue the noblest path of self-realization and samadhi. Brahma got enraged and cursed Narada to become a quixotic, glibly, and dreamy human being named Upabharhana, with frivolous nature, as an indulger in romance and its music, a veena player, talkative, wanderer, and as the son of a servant maid. After repeated births, would by the grace of Sri Krishna return to Brahma, when he would then become a jnani. Narada was nonplussed by this spate of curses and said to Brahma, "Your anger was least justified and unwarranted. But I understand the minute you, out of anger, gave me this sharpam, I had to accept it. I have no go. Normally, a father would chastise his son taking to wrong path. But in this case, many curses were hurled onto a person with passion for the highest achievement and only one thing, namely devotion for Sri Krishna. That is why the punishment you meted out to me is absolutely wrong. Nevertheless, in the series of births that you asked me to go through, do kindly grant me the boon of not leaving dedication to Sri Krishna ever. Do also kindly accord me the advantage of a permanent memory of the prior births. Thus asked Narada to his father, Brahma, Jati smaro hare bhakti Jati smaro hare bhakti Yukta shukarayo nisho Jnanirlabhetsa prasavi golokam Yati karmana Govinda charanam boja Bhakti madhvikamipsita Pibatam Vaishnavadinam Pibatam Vaishnavadinam Prasabhuta Vasundara Tirthani Svarshamichanti Vaishnavanam Pitamaga Vaishnavanam Pitamaga Pitamaga Jati smaro hare bhakti yukta sukara yonishu Jnanirlabhet saprasavi golokam yati karmana Govinda charanamboja bhaktim advikam ipsitam Pibatam Vaishnavadinam aprasuta vasundara Tirthani sparsamichanti Vaishnavanam Pitamaha. Those who do not retain the memories of devotion to Sri Krishna would be worse than taking the birth of a pig. The preservation of such memories would, however, ensure the concerned persons to attain Goloka. Those who are attuned to enjoying the sweet taste of Sri Krishna's sacred feed do indeed turn the entire Prithvi as sacrosanct. As sinners add to the sins of the Tirthas in which they bathe, such sins too get washed out, offsetting the mere touch of Vaishnava Mahatmanas. Tirthani sparsamichanti Vaishnavanam Pitamaha. The repentant Brahma grants that boon to Narada, as Narada had asked for, thus obtaining the blessing of Jatismara, or the memory of previous births from Brahma, to enable Narada to continue his devotion to Sri Krishna. Narada addressed Brahmadeva as follows: Chaturanana, you have given me so many curses without justification, for the only reason of not obeying you to distance myself from Paramatma and get into the whirlpool of samsara. Therefore, I feel now justified to give you also a few curses because my intentions were honorable and I was punished. Now you are going to get curses from me. One may wonder why one incarnation of Brahman should curse the other and be cursed to undergo the effects of such. After all, Brahma the creator was an incarnation of Brahman. Narada was also an incarnation of Brahman. So the question will come to the minds, why should Brahman create Brahma and Brahma will curse Narada? Narada will do the reverse curse on him. Every action has equal and opposite reaction. Whatever incarnation the Brahman may have taken, in that incarnation he has to perform certain duties. Although each one is an amsa of the Supreme Brahman, the tamas and rajas in each of those avatars merits such punishments as well. And hence, you see what happened. The great Rishi Narada, who is an empowered incarnation of Brahman, propagates devotional service all over the universe. All great devotees of Bhagavan all over the universe and in different planets and species of life are Narada's disciples. Sri Vedavyasa, the compiler of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is also one of his disciples. Narada is the author of Narada Pancharatra, which is the exposition of the Vedas, particularly for the devotional service of the Lord. This Narada Pancharatra trains the karmis or the fruitive workers to achieve liberation from the bondage of fruitive work. The conditioned souls are mostly attracted by karma because they want to enjoy life by the sweat of their own brows. The whole universe is full of karma workers in all species of life. The fruitive works include all kinds of economic development and all plans for good living. But the law of nature provides that every action has its resultant reaction, and the performer of the work is bound up by such reactions, good or bad. The reaction of excellent work is comparative material prosperity, whereas the reaction of shoddy work is comparative material distress. But material conditions, either in so-called happiness or in so-called distress, are all meant for distress only. Foolish materialists have no information of how to obtain eternal happiness in the unconditional state. Sri Narada therefore informs these foolish fruitive workers how to realize the reality of happiness. Narada gives direction to the deceased men of the world how one's present engagement can lead one to the path of spiritual emancipation. The physician directs a patient to take treated milk in the form of yogurt for his sufferings from indigestion due to his taking another milk preparation. You may have seen in our avaricious behavior of eating, we take a lot of milk sweets and get into digestion problems. In the good old times, the physician will say, take a glass of dilute buttermilk, and that will dissolve your indigestion. That buttermilk came only from milk, and the milk also is the genesis for most of the milk product that we ate and got indigestion. So the same thing has a different form but cures. So the cause of the disease and the remedy of the disease may be the same, but it must be treated by an expert physician like Narada. The Bhagavad Gita also gives the same solution of serving the Lord by the fruits of one's labor. That will lead one to the path of Naishkamya or liberation. Narada Bhakti Sutra is well-known sutra venerated as spoken by Narada himself. The text contains 9 chapters of 84 verses. It details the process of devotion, namely bhakti or bhakti yoga, and is thus of particular importance to most of the bhakti movements of Sanatana Dharma. Narada Purana and Naradiya Purana are 2 distinct Sanskrit texts, one of which is a major Purana, while the other is a minor Purana or Upapurana. Both have been a cause of confusion in Purana-related scholarship. To prevent confusion, some scholars sometimes refer to the minor Purana as Brihan Naradiya Purana. Unlike most Puranas, the Brihan Naradiya text is focused almost entirely on Vishnu worship, while the Narada Purana text is a compilation of 41 chapters, which has 20% on Vishnu worship, and the rest of the chapters, about 163 chapters, that covers 80%, a wide range of topics, including a large compilation of Mahatmya, namely travel guides to temples and places along river Ganges and neighboring regions. The Narada Purana is notable for dedicating 18 chapters on other Puranas, one entire chapter summarizing each major Purana. 18 chapters for 18 major Puranas. Narada Smriti is part of the Dharma Shastras, an Indian literary tradition that serves as a collection of legal maxims relating to the topic of Dharma. This Narada Smriti, the text is purely juridical in character, in that it focuses solely on procedural and substantive law. Known as the juridical text par excellence, this Narada Smriti is the only Dharmashastra text to not cover areas such as righteous conduct and penance. This Smriti focused nature has made the text highly valued by the great rulers, namely the kings and their governments in Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. Most of Southeast Asia followed Narada Smriti, just like the Indian kings, likely as an aid of carrying out their dharma of justly ruling the country under the Shruti doctrines. It is believed, though unverified, that the monumental ancient work, Arthashastra of Kautilya, who was the guardian and teacher of Chandragupta Maurya, might have been significantly influenced and written by the tenets of Narada Smriti. Sangita Makaranda is an ancient work on classical music attributed to Narada, although there is some serious controversy due to the dates and timing of this work. I have a copy of the 1920 edition by Mangesh Ramakrishna, who edited Sangita Ratnakara, and it's just the Sanskrit original with Sanskrit explanations. This work, Sangita Makaranda, is a rare collection of definitions, descriptions, and comments on all the essential music, and its main feature is the treatment of ragas, categorizing them as male, female, and neuter. Ragas also have got gender classifications. This treatise is believed to be the earliest text where rules there are seen in the current Hindustani classical music as ragas and raginis. Narada actually names and classifies the system in its earlier form, thus a precursor to the now known Hindustani system. Sangita Makaranda includes 19 types of veena and 101 types of tala or rhythm. It also hints on the uniqueness of the raga nomenclature. On close study of it, one learns of 3 distinct stages on the nomenclature of the Indian ragas. Let's go further to the next avatara. Surye Dharmakala Sarge Narayana Rishi Turye Dharmakala Sarge Turye Dharmakala Sarge Narayana Rishi Bhutva Atma Upashama Upetam Akaro Duscharam Tapaha Akaro Duscharam Tapaha Turye Dharmakala Sarge Naranarayana Vrishi Bhutva Atma Upashama Upetam Akaro Duscharam Tapaha. In the 4th incarnation, the Lord became Nara and Narayana, the twin sons of the wife of King Dharma. Thus, he undertook severe and exemplary penances to control the senses. As King Rishabha advised his sons, tapasya, or voluntary acceptance of penance for realization of the transcendence, is the only duty of the human being. It was so done by the Lord himself in an exemplary manner so as to teach us why tapasya is very important. The Lord is very kind to forgetful souls. Therefore, Bhagavan comes himself and leaves behind necessary instructions and also sends his good sons as representatives to call all the conditioned souls back to the Supreme. Recently, within the memory of everyone, Lord Chaitanya also appeared about 6 centuries ago for the same purpose. He wanted to show a special favor to fallen souls of the age of iron industry. The incarnation of Narayana is worshipped still at Badari Narayana on the range of the Himalayas. We will see more on this Narayana incarnation. The entire Dasakam 16 by Bhattadiri focuses only on that incarnations. Kapilo Nama Siddhesakala Viplutam Siddhesakala Viplutam Provaja Asuraye Sankyam Tattvagrama Virnayam Provaja Asuraye Sankyam Tattvagrama Virnayam Panchamak Kapilo Nama Siddhesaha Kala Viplutam Provaja Asuraye Sankyam Tattvagrama Vinirnayam. The fifth incarnation, that of Lord Kapila, is foremost among perfected beings. He gave an exposition of the creative elements and metaphysics to Asuri Brahmana, for in course of time, this knowledge had been lost completely. We saw the etymological meaning of Sankhya in the sessions that we dedicated to Kapila Avatara and Kapila Gita, which is Sankhya is that which explains very lucidly by analysis of the material elements. This was done for the first time by Bhagavan Kapila, who is declared elaborately to be the fifth in the line of incarnations, both in Srimad Bhagavatam as well as by Narayana Bhattadiri in 2 Dasakams, which we saw earlier. The next incarnation is very important. Bhagavan incarnated himself as Dattatreya. Due to paucity of time, we will stop here and resume in the next session on the incarnation of Dattatreya. Narayana, 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 Narayana. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Guru Vayurappa.